Welcome to the Paranormal Plains, where we share oddities, curiosities, cryptids, and strange stories from the upper Midwest. This is Casey, recording from Minnesota.
And this is Leslie. I'm in North Dakota.
Unfortunately, you're not here with me.
I am very excited to tell you about today's case. It's a pretty famous UFO case. It's right up there with the best of them. We are going to be talking about the Marshall County UFO incident. Get ready to believe.
You're going to learn me some stuff. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm excited. I'm excited to learn more about this strange state, considering I'm a North Dakota expat, and there's so much about Minnesota I don't know.
Well, this is practically North Dakota, so we could almost claim it, but...
I suppose, yeah.
Anyway.
Let me pull up a map, actually. I want to get, like, my geography.
Sure, so this is going to be... Well, you know where Warren is. Warren, Minnesota.
Look at that. Okay, I got this. My mind's in the right place.
All right. It's 2 a.m. on August 27th, 1979, and Sheriff Deputy Val Johnson is on patrol. As he stops at an intersection of State Highway 220 and Marshall County Road 5, he sees a bright light 3 to 4 feet off the ground near a tree line that's off in the distance. He could tell it was like too far up to be a car, so at first he thought it might be like a semi with one of its headlights out. Maybe it's even like a small aircraft. So he turns onto Highway 220 to check it out. And he gets about a mile when suddenly the light closes the distance with like incredible speed, like almost instantly, shot right at him and engulfs the patrol car. Val Johnson wakes up in the ditch 40 minutes later. There's 900 feet of skid marks behind the car. Both his wristwatch and the car's clock were now 14 minutes slow. That's pretty classic, UFO encounter, missing time.
Right, missing time, yep.
Yeah. There's also damage to the patrol car. The windshield and one of the headlights were smashed. Its 2 radio antennae were bent sharply back, and there was a circular ding on the hood. And one of the things that I think is really interesting, too, is when Johnson was taken to a doctor, he also had welder burns around his eyes. That's what the doctor described it as. He said that it was almost as if he'd been subjected to an extremely bright light.
So this is middle nowhere, middle like of the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an alien, and that said alien is driving under the influence.
All right, episode's over. I already made you believe. Yes, this was a UFO hit and run by teen aliens. Have you seen these aliens?
They're trying to land. They're trying to crash land.
Yes.
And so they pick the road because it's the closest thing to a runway. And our poor officer just happens to be in the wrong place in the wrong time and gets clipped. And then they freak out and they hide the evidence and they drag his body out and then they flee the scene.
Wait, what? He's not dead. Oh, you mean just they left him knocked out?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yep, it's just another case of teen aliens, Classic. The days that follow this, there's a large investigation mounted into the incident and the damage to the car. And I thought this was so cool because so many times when you hear about UFO stories, there's always this, like, you're being told not to talk about it. Mm-hmm. You never saw the car again. All this cover-up, but that wasn't the case here. They called an engineer from Honeywell Labs. They called a glass expert from Ford Motor Company and several others to try and figure out, like, what happened to this patrol car? Can we get the insurance money?
Yeah.
And the experts were baffled. The guy from Ford said that the force of the damage that cracked the windshield didn't seem to come from either outside or inside forces. It was as if the glass had been cracked due to being, like, bent.
Oh.
And he had never seen anything like it. And then the lab that checked out the bent antenna, they said that it was from force, not melting due to heat, but they hadn't been bent by hand because the bugs that just were like on the antenna from driving, they were all intact. So it wasn't if someone had just like, grabbed on and bent it, because then they would have been,
pulled all the bugs off of it.
Yeah. So in the end, they could only speculate. These were their best guesses. The engineer said the best fit for the evidence pointed to a highly charged electrical thing with enough mass and momentum to create the effect. They thought maybe the windshield was damaged by stones, apparently carried in the wake of an unknown object. The bent antenna, they thought were caused by a blast of its high-velocity wind. So there you go.
Yeah.
And the incident was closed without any real conclusions. So truly, this is a UFO case, because his car was hit by an unidentified flying object. It may not have been driven by an alien, but this is a UFO hit and run.
So not a giant deer.
Well, A deer carrying a flashlight, or
Yeah.
so what do you think? Like, what do you think so far of this?
I think that speaks a lot for the bureaucracy. They were willing to like reach out to outside persons instead of just being like, ignore everything and we'll just like roll the car in the ditch and light it on fire, rather than have to have any creativity about this whatsoever.
A UFO expert was one of the people they called in.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really,
yeah, because they were like, well, if it was UFO, get the UFO guy out here.
That's sweet.
Like,
did they say anything about the dent in the top?
they thought that there might have been stones that were like kind of kicked up by this whatever this was coming by. So they thought that it got dinged by like some big rock that the whatever it was had picked up.
Was there anything about any aircraft in the area? Things on radar?
I mean, any registered, because if you'll remember, he did think possibly that this might be a small aircraft. Right. He had kind of thought like, oh, maybe it's making like some sort of emergency landing. There's this small aircraft, or I don't know if this is accurate, but someone speculated like, oh, they thought that someone might be running drugs from Canada
in their little prop plane.
So I don't know about that.
That would make sense, but then that doesn't explain like the lost time,
right? Yeah,
unless it was some kind of EMP drug smuggling pulse.
They finally did it. They found out a way.
So was there anything in your research that showed what happened to the officer, as far as you just like go back to work, or did everybody give him a hard time about being the UFO dude?
Yeah. So the incident was like a huge media storm right away, tons of attention. So right away he appeared on Good Morning America, because I'm sure this was like an exciting thing at the time, but then House, the police station, they were just flooded with calls. And people were coming from all over to see this. So yeah, he actually ended up not enjoying this attention pretty quickly. So this happened at the end of August. By September that year, I found an interview with him, and he was saying that this had become a tremendous strain on his family, and he was hoping that it would quiet down so he could just go back to his normal life. He said he just wanted to be a small town deputy again.
Chasing kids out of the woods for smoking weed and having parties,
Yeah, right. Yeah, life's simple pleasures. And I think that's another great thing about this case, is because oftentimes people who have UFO experiences, suddenly they have book deals and they talk at UFO conferences. Mm-hmm. There's clearly something like in it for them. But, he had this experience and then he just kind of moved on. He kept working in law enforcement. He did transfer a couple different places after a couple years. A reporter tracked him down in 2015, and he now lives in Wisconsin, and he's retired. Mm-hmm. They were asking him about that night, though, and he said that he doesn't speculate on what happened. He said he doesn't think that the light he saw was an extraterrestrial, but he also doesn't rule out the possibility.
Smart. I like that. That's a really non-answer. That's solid.
Yeah, it's very diplomatic. Yeah. Lights were seen. Because I was curious if this reminded you of anything. I thought right away of the Min Min lights. Mm-hmm. Do you remember those?
Yes.
They were these little balls of light that were seen by motorists out on the highways in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes they would just rush up. It was a very similar story where you'd see a ball of light and then suddenly just rush right up to your car. So I thought that was really interesting because it lined up very well with another phenomena that's over in Australia. Is
there anything about, because the lights, yes, but then it's there was an impact, there was something large.
Was there any evidence of?
Well, it's just if the lights match up, but any reports of leaving damage or just curiosity?
They usually don't leave damage, but there's also the kind of folklorist aspect of it, of people who are looking for the Min Min lights don't come back.
Oh, right.
But I mean, Casey, I'm trying to get you to say this is an alien, but you're not taking the bait. So we'll move on to my favorite part. This is so cool. You can go see the police car from that night.
Whoa!
They still have it.
Yes! They kept it? It's a tourist thing?
Isn't that so great?
So, totally gonna go have to spend some tourist dollars checking out this car.
Yes! I went last week because I had to get out of my house.
Yeah.
It is so cool. So it has all the damage.
Wait. Are you saying that you left last weekend and you saw this?
Well, it was during the week, but yes.
You got to go, you went inside?
Yeah.
And you didn't even, come get me?
Oh, you mean, well, first of all, I didn't want you to know all about the case. I had to tell you about it on this podcast.
Ah!
But also, how far of a drive would that be for cities, Twin Cities people?
Oh, God.
It was so, if you live in North Dakota, it's not very far. It was only 40 minutes for me in Grand Forks. And that's why I could not believe that we had not heard about this yet or been out there yet. because that car has been there since like 1979.
This is by Grand Forks. I see it right there. Oh, fuck, that's just the Skyview Drive-In. I've like freaking been there.
Okay, well, road trip to Warren. Absolutely. And if you're listening to this podcast, you should go to Warren.
Oh my god.
They have a drive-in. They have a UFO alien crash car.
They've got Marshall County Historical Society. I bet that's
where it is.
What?
I know, right. So someone was really smart because they were going to repair this car and like return it to the forest or whatever. But someone really smart was like, no, we should leave it how it is. And then they were going to like show it at fairs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they eventually donated it to the Historical Society.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I went out really close to the anniversary of the crash and I went to the site and to go look at the car. What a great way to preserve some really unique history from the area. I think that's so cool. It's like a great claim to fame for this town. Their most popular exhibit at the museum, they said. Apparently people come from all over to see this car. I don't know when this was, but people would take blacklight flashlights and be like shining it all over the car looking for like...
Are they looking for alien jizz or like what? Like
I know, that's what I was like. Like, what are you looking for, man?
Stains of concern on the car.
Like, you just shine a blacklight on the car and it has like an alien alphabet on it. And they're like, oh, if only we had known.
Alien graffiti.
Yeah. Last year in 2019, it was the 40th anniversary of the incident, and the mayor named August 27th UFO Day.
Oh, that's coming up. We're like about to get there.
Well, not at the time we're posting it, but yes.
Oh. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's a couple days away from now, but
yeah,
we're preemptively celebrating. I like that.
Yes, so it was very cool. You can actually watch the live stream of that 40th anniversary celebration they held. They had a reenactment of the radio call. They had ufologists out there, and they had the dispatcher from that night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so very cool. They had the car mounted up, and they did like underglow on it.
I am not used to cities in our area, the great states, being this cool.
Oh, I don't like the energy or enthusiasm that went into that, Casey.
There's like, I'm not used to just, maybe I'm so negative. I'm used to just no fun allowed. And this is fun.
No, absolutely.
Interesting. And that they didn't, like I said, they didn't just roll the car into a ditch and light it on fire because it's fucking Satan. Like, I'm so amazed. I'm so happy.
That's why I cannot say like enough how cool I think this is. I love everything about it. Claps all around to Warren. You guys should have like billboards because for some reason I didn't know about this until now. So
yeah, they need to do tourist campaigns. They need to put some pamphlets out. I mean, this seems like in the new age of Instagram tourism. Come get a selfie with the freaking alien crash car.
Yeah,
that's a golden opportunity. I think we should email their city clerk and be like, hey, this one's on us.
I know. We know. So when I went out to the site, there is no like marker or anything showing that this is where it happened. If you want to go out, you can find maps pretty easily for where it was. It's right around, so it's Highway 220. It's around mile marker 68. So there's no like marker or anything. It's probably because they don't want tons of people stopping. I don't know that people would in that area, but because, there's no shoulder or anything.
Makes sense.
They should have something out there. It'd be so fun because even if you don't believe in aliens or UFOs, this is just fun.
Well, yeah, it was a strange thing, and like nobody was seriously hurt, and now a city can host a annual weird, crazy alien day and get some sales tax profits.
Well, the psychic driving the small craft with the drug smuggling did crash and die.
Oh.
No, I'm totally kidding.
Womp womp. Maybe we make a sign and we put a sign with the podcast name out there at the mile marker in 220 and we advertise.
And then the first Windsor that comes through, just move that to the next state.
So the mile marker thing is funny because I think about all the times. So for drug smuggling up at the Canadian border, you have your stash site based on mile markers and somebody else comes and retrieves, right? And so that's why it's always like, find mile marker 420, go dig it up. So I'm just wondering if that's what what alien junkies were doing, if they were driving through and trying to find their mile marker and then they saw the heat and they got nervous.
Hey, who knows? I thought this was a really convincing case. Val Johnson was not known to be like some practical joker. It's a good witness basically for this. Yeah, and like everything around it is basically conjecture. I didn't find any. I went in because I thought this was so convincing that I was trying to find skeptical ideas on what this was. And yeah, all of it was conjecture. No real good explanations. There were some... I'll give you what they were, though. One of the theories was ball lightning.
Of course.
Just, like,
always ball
thrown
lightnings.
out there. Yeah. Which I really don't think any of these really seem to fit, because I don't see how the lightning... Because I did look up. I was like, how long does ball lightning last? And it said, like, 1 to 10 seconds. So I don't see how he could see it, drive a mile, and then have it hit his car.
Yeah, that would have to be ball lightning in some kind of time dilation field where it's...
Yeah, so maybe it's ball lightning paired with some other paranormal actual thing. Another thing was that there were overhead power lines, I guess, running behind that tree line where you saw the light. And when I went out there the other day, it isn't there now. So I don't know. I guess maybe they were just taken down at some point. But in the map that was drawn of the accident, they are marked on there. So yeah, they thought that maybe somehow that caused it. Though I don't know how a power line would generate like a floating orb.
Right. Unless it's like some kind of transformer overheating thing. But then how does he get burns on his face from the light?
I mean, these kind of electric lightning and, you know, the power line thing, maybe that would explain why the clock stopped. And if you'll remember, the engineer did refer to a highly charged electrical mass in his report of what he thought could have caused the damage. So, I mean, that does fit with a electricity sort of themed, you know, cause.
Right.
But yeah, I just don't know how those
alien
would...
EMP to throw off the heat. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also found it had a chapter in a book from 1983 called UFOs, The Public Deceived.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I gotta say, if I like didn't think this was a UFO alien before, I'm gonna like dig my heels in right now and be like, reptilians are running the government, because I hated this guy. I was not impressed with this author. I really think that when you've already decided on your conclusion and then you just kind of make everything fit to that, you're not going to end up with a clear picture.
That's the fundamental flaw. Freaking science is like, I did a bunch of grad school and that was the thing they taught us, was just like, you're not proving your hypothesis, you're actually disproving something, and it just kind of supports it. You gotta... I don't know. I paid a lot of money for it and I don't remember shit. But that was, a big part of it, is that you don't go into whatever it is you're researching trying to prove something. You got to keep the thought process of, you compile it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it reads super obvious too.
Yeah, I mean, when the title of your book is The Public Deceived, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be try to give any room for doubt here.
Yeah, that's your thesis, is like right there. It's given away in the title.
Yeah. It goes both ways too, because if you think aliens are real and just totally like ignore reality, or the other way around, if you just think it's nonsense and ignore these experts that they talk to, then yeah. So here are these explanations that this doofus gave. He said...
Strong language.
I know. I'm holding back here. He said, Johnson caused the damage to the car. That's what he thought.
What?
Despite that, right, I know. Despite, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were a glass expert. Listen, what's the point of being a glass expert for like 100 years so some guy can be like, oh yeah, he just hit it with a hammer. Yeah, I'm sure he's never seen a windshield that's been hit by a hammer before.
Right. That's like, what motivation is there for a civil servant to damage property? I lost thermometer at work and it was $10 and I was like, this is going to be so much paperwork to have to find a replacement for a $10 thermometer. And then I can't imagine taking a bat to the patrol car for shits and giggles. Nah, that's not happening.
Could you imagine the incident report paperwork?
Yeah, absolutely not. Not worth it.
There's like so much work to go to. If it just makes no sense. Like,
right.
So in this book, this author interviewed people that Johnson worked with. He was trying to get them to say, he was like, did he ever talk about UFOs? And the person's like, I mean, not more than like anyone else does. And then he was like, would he pull pranks on people in the office? And the guy's like, I mean, maybe he hide a guy's coffee cup. That was the extent of it. So
that's he's a real prankster.
Yeah, right. So it was strange that it was included in this book, because it was almost like it was meant to be like, see?
So wait,
but
how is it so public deceived? So the thesis is there are aliens, or the thesis is there's no aliens?
No, just that all these are hoaxes, and
he went out and beat his own car.
Yeah.
What a prick.
Yeah, just, I mean, none of this made sense. Because, yeah, so Johnson was very credible. I don't know why he would even say that. Also, the experts specifically ruled that out. They said that this was not done by someone just bending the antenna or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what really got me. The guy claimed that the bent antenna on the top of the car, they said it was bent further down than a light that was on the top of the car. So if something had come over the top, it should have taken out the light if it also bent the antenna. And I was like, oh, wow. That's like, okay, so that might be a real thing then. Well, guess what? I went out and looked at the car with my own 2 human eyes, and I could see the antenna was bent several inches above the light.
Oh, so that means that he is falsifying his evidence. Maybe he didn't even go out and look at the car, and he was just...
for sure he didn't.
Whoa, so now we can throw out all of his shit because he is clearly no longer credible about anything. Because he lied about the antenna.
I'm ready to look up this guy from the 80s on Twitter.
Put him on blast.
And blast him. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny that you say you're too humanized because I feel like that's something that a non-human entity might say.
You know what? I've just decided that humans are ready for our alien contact, and that, you know what? The rest of this podcast, that's what this is about. That's why I decided to bring this podcast. I am ready to bring it to the people.
I'm scared.
And this is where I
thought
peel off my mask and...
No! Lies! So, was there... Okay, so I'm looking at the map, and it's really close to Grand Forks. And what's also really close to Grand Forks? The Grand Forks Air Force Base.
Yeah, some people did bring that up. They wondered if maybe... I wonder if maybe, I mean, you know, a lot of times with UFOs, people suggest that it might be some sort of testing military equipment experiment. I mean, that's honestly the only, I mean, if this is an alien, then that's the only thing I could really think of that it could be. But wait, we have more bullshit from that guy. Yes, there is more. So this guy also brought up that that damage that we were talking about with the welder burns was described. So he brought up that the damage to his eyes was gone when he was examined 10 hours later after being moved to Grand Forks Hospital. But listen, I'm not a doctor, so, you know, I don't know anything about the eyes, but I still don't really see why that would be some reason why this, like, I mean, he wasn't pronounced blind. They just said that his eyes had been affected. I mean, what's he saying about that doctor that checked him out then? The other thing that this author brought up, the last thing I'll mention, because, again, I don't really find any of this to be very convincing. He was very sarcastic about Johnson not agreeing to take a polygraph test. They're only 70% accurate. What Johnson said that he didn't want to take it, he said that he didn't want to become a sideshow for the benefit of other people's morbid curiosity.
Right. It wasn't like the guy is out there saying, like, I was attacked by aliens. No, he's just like, there was an accident, and he's not speculating what happened either way.
Right.
Like, yeah, why would he indulge this guy? I'd be the same way. I'd be like, nah, like, get out of here. This is not worth my time. Like, think what you want of the story. I don't need to convince you of anything. So then why would you have to...
I thought exactly the same. Why would he need to prove this? I mean, he told his job, this is what happened. They accepted it, and he's not trying to convince anyone of anything. So...
Right.
So yeah, this guy made me just be like, nope, it was an alien. Aliens are real.
Yeah,
so.
That's such like a gotcha thing. You won't subject yourself to this like semi-evasive testing. Therefore, it can't be aliens. And he's like, I'm not saying it was aliens, dude. Like,
yeah, I didn't even say it was.
Just saying I didn't crash the car.
Right. So, yeah. What do you think, Casey?
Oh, geez. I think this was a really early unmanned aerial vehicle experiment off of Air Force Base. No. I think it was definitely drunk aliens.
There we go.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, how many times have I, like, driven home from work on those old Grand Forks County 81 and the headlights are going across the road, drunk people doing drunk stuff in the middle of the country, totally drunk aliens. It's gotta be drunk aliens. I don't know what else
I know, I really love that idea of, like, they're just big teen aliens around, and they're the ones that do all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say. I mean, it was definitely a UFO.
Yep.
And it was probably either some sort of experimental aircraft or, yeah, aliens are real.
And they're drunk.
And they're just living it up. I would love to see if there was, like, some sort of report a couple miles away of some real weirdos coming into a local bar.
Yeah.
They didn't know what money was or, yeah. and they were like wearing weird clothes, like it was their first time trying it out.
The weird thing would be, so if you go to bars in the middle of nowhere and everybody's drinking beer out of a bottle, that's how you know their taps are bad. So the aliens come in they're like their weird human suits, and then they want tap beer, and all the locals look at them and they're like, this guy crazy.
Yeah, it's like when the guy at the piano stops, everyone turns.
Yeah. Definitely drunk aliens. I think the evidence is irrefutable that there were aliens and they were just freaking wasted, and then they saw the cop and they got scared.
They just bolted.
And then they wiped his memory, and they fricked up the time continuum, and they bounced.
Yeah. All right, well, that's where we're coming down on that one, folks.
I think the most unbelievable thing about the story isn't the aliens. It's the fact that some small town in the upper Midwest was hip enough to keep the car. I think that is the most incredible, unbelievable thing about this whole story. Yeah.
Yes, truly, Warren, Minnesota is the real hero of the story. Definitely go check it out. Go to Warren. Check their hours before you want to head in. They have kind of like weekday hours. Definitely go get some gas while you're there and spend some money.
Did you partake of any of the snacks in the area? Did you perhaps eat at Uptown Cafe and Lounge?
Are you just on Google Maps?
Or the Dairy Queen treat?
Shout out to Uptown Lounge. Maybe that's where we should check in to see if there was any hooligans afoot.
There's Mix of Warren. I mean, I don't know what that is, but it's a takeout place, and it's got 4.5 stars. It's got late night food and bar games. I mean, we can maybe bump into some aliens out there.
Yeah. They did, so for that 40th anniversary last year, a lot of the restaurants in town had space or like UFO themed meals and food that you could get.
This has got to be, okay, so.
Isn't that rad?
When we're not about to die from COVID.
Everyone go to Warren. I know, they should, I mean, if, you know, what could have been? What if they had that, instead of Area 51, they had everyone flood into Warren, Minnesota? Yeah. What could have been?
Don't storm Area 51. Go check out.
Storm Warren, Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is totally, I mean, they've got like 5 different churches, 3 different bars, and a post office, and a sweet alien car. I mean, like, this is putting them at the,
of course.
the top underrated cities of the upper Midwest. Speaking of spooky small town aliens at bars, I have
Casey's Ghost Stories.
Yeah, I got a spooky story. So I was at a place today that I will not name, but it was a small bar in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, hey guys, you guys got a basement that I need to check out. And then the cook was like, yeah, it's not here. So she led me down there, and she's like, it's really kind of spooky though. And I was like, yeah, a lot of these old buildings, these places were like used to be a school in 1920, and then it got turned into like a bar in 1950, and then it turned to another bar in 1970. And so these places are just like
also Indian burial ground.
The foundation is crumbling, and you know, it's just like a dive bar, right? So she like opens the door, and she was like, yeah, on my first day we're working here, I was down in the basement, and a plate flew off of one of the shelves and just narrowly missed my head. And she said they actually brought in a medium. Whoa! Because it was like, they brought in a medium to like figure out what was going on, and then they haven't had any problems since.
What did the medium do? Like talk shit?
I don't know. I couldn't get more information because they were the only cook in the kitchen and they had orders coming in, so I didn't want to bug them too much.
She'd be like, listen, by law, I can hold you here as long as I want, and you need to finish this story.
I should have pursued. Well, I'm also time limited on my inspections because of COVID, so I need to get in and out pretty quick.
All right. That's the only excuse.
Yeah, I couldn't do too much more investigating, but I thought that was pretty sweet that it was a haunted bar.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah,
wow.
Their own plate. So I think what happened, my because the place had recently been sold, so I think that the ghost preferred the old owners and was mad somebody new was taking over, so they had to bring the median in to mediate with the ghost.
You know, that is kind of a thing. Usually it's like construction changes, but yeah, that is like a thing associated with ghost activities where there's a big change up.
Yeah, I mean, they're changing the menu, maybe changing the beer selection. You know, like this ghost apparently was pretty upset. So.
They took wings off the menu and he was pissed.
It definitely was one of those basements that just keeps going, and it had like the crumbling stone foundation, and like the lights didn't work, and it was really spooky. Yeah, so I was like, nope, we're good. Back upstairs, please. I'm good. But yeah, that was my my spooky paranormal experience today, and I could not wait to come back and tell you because I thought you'd appreciate it.
This has been Casey's Ghost Stories.
The real spooky thing while doing my job is finding the chicken that's been in the cooler for 3 weeks and it's starting to turn colors. That's the real scary
The haunted
shit.
chicken.
Ugh. Anyway.
I don't think you even said what you do, Casey. Casey's a health inspector.
I am. I used to work in bars. I used to do food service. I did a lot of retail. I went to college. I didn't know what to do with said degree. I answered a job listing. I had no idea what the job was, and then 3 days onto the job, I was like, oh, hey, I'm a health inspector, and I've been doing it ever since, so
Wow.
here I am.
To explain why Casey is walking into people's bars and checking the place out. That's why.
That's why. It's definitely interesting. Like, everybody hates you all the time, but I get paid better than I did as a cook, so I guess it's okay, so.
Yeah, hey, why not? Being a health inspector is pretty sweet.
It's good stories. Nobody ever wants to go out to eat with you again because you spoil it for everybody, but...
Yeah, they can't take you places they like.
Yeah, I know, because then I close them down. No, just kidding. I have no real authority. Sweet. But hey,
Yeah?
Leslie, why don't you give me some more information about where people can find our brilliant ghost stories and small town Midwest tourist information guides?
You can find us on Instagram at Paranormal Planes.
You can find us on Twitter at ParaPlanesPod, because Paranormal Planes does not fit, and somebody vetoed Haunted Walleye.
I absolutely did. You can find the podcast on YouTube.
And in the meantime, don't get hit by any drunk aliens. Keep your eyes on the road and a mask on your face.
I like that. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.